really, what I'd like to do is start with the the question that came up in my video today, because I think it's an interesting question, because it's going to be an argument that's going to be brought up a lot moving forward, which is the idea that should we or should we not be bringing down UFO craft, right? So let's assume that the summoning of craft is real, telepathically, you can communicate. Should we be, once we communicate or make connections with these craft, should we be shooting them down or bringing them down, right? Danny Sheehan is arguing against that. So is Dr. Greer, other people, right? That should not be the case. We should not be doing that. Then you have Jake Barber and his team and other people, and even Lou Elizondo. They want to do that, right? They want to bring down these craft. And in fact, they've stated that they've been doing it for years, 2 to 3 craft a year. They've been bringing them down. So the argument is, should we or should we not bring down UFO craft? Let's let's go with you first, Todd, and then you answer after him. What do you think? What do you think, Con?
Yeah. So this is more of a morality issue. This is not actually 100%, in my opinion, about national security. It's more like morally, it's because you're trying to think that what are the craft doing? The craft have been observed being stationary above nuclear sites. Sometimes they're checking how our weapons are working, like they're switching on and off different weapons. But initially, if you go in each case, especially with Robert Hastings' book, if you go analytically to what has happened, nothing malicious has happened, which is interesting, because then you go and ask yourself, why would you want to bring down something that doesn't cause trouble or actually doesn't have an ill intent? Does that make sense? So again, I have to say it's more of a morality issue. Like, you're trying to bring something down because you see it as national security threat, but in the end, you don't really know its intent. So I think like more investigation should be done in general.
Oh, that's good. Todd, real quick before we get to you, anyone in the audience listening, go ahead and prepare your questions, because I'm going to be bringing people up to talk with us one at a time. So if you have a question or just a comment or something, to talk about, it could be anything. Just kind of get that ready and just put in a request, and we'll keep those there. So, Todd, yeah, what do you think? Should we or should we not be bringing down these craft? Great response, by the way, Con.
Well, this is very subjective, clearly, but I think about anecdotally, we have heard about this whole psionic situation going back to the 40s. Believe it or not, it's been around for a very long time. When I think about a advanced civilization that would be here for whatever purpose that they would be here for, and let's just be clear, if there's one here, there's probably many here. It's probably not just one group. Each one of them, even within their own subgroups, are going to have different motives and narratives and reasons for doing the things that they do. If you believe some of the information that's out there, we are gifted sometimes these things. Let me just say, I don't think for a second that an advanced civilization would allow us to psionically kidnap their vehicles. I feel like it's a little bit of revenge for all the abductions for the people that are taken in the middle of the night without their consent. That being said, we would never want to declare, quote unquote war with an alien species that seems to be so far and above what we're capable of. We don't know how they perceive that, right? Maybe they're being allowed to do this. Because if these craft are in fact, as we've heard anecdotally, embedded with a consciousness, whether that be some sort of soul energy or just conscious thought AI, whatever you want to think of it as, maybe there is an on and off key, an open door and a closed door. And when that frequency goes out, let's just, imagine, Marvel style, that there's this psionic beam going out and targeting these craft. You're either allowed to penetrate that machinery and get to the core of it so that you can bring it down, or you're not allowed to. I really have a hard time believing that this group that has either been here for millennia, comes through other dimensions, traverses time and space, millions of miles at light speed, are incapable of shielding themselves from our psionic capabilities. I just have a hard time believing that. Maybe that's me underestimating just how amazing we are as a species. That's also possible. That's the challenge with this is all subjective. It's all theory. It's fun to think about. I think personally, if we were seriously affronting this group, we would be at war. And maybe it's a silent war. Maybe you look at the increase of the sightings of all these metallic spheres and some of the information surrounding that, and how there might be some sort of management going on this planet. It's very possible, but it also means that they're contained. And we've talked about this before, in that you have a disparate separation of these groups of the leadership class, which is likely could be organic, like us, could also be machine, right? And then you've got the little worker bees, the drones, that might be the ones that are operating these craft, or if there's anything in them at all, right? Those are, and I hate to put it like this, but throwaway technology, right? Of no consequence. Nobody's going to be missing a family member. So I would have to believe that if we're able to psionically capture something and bring it down, it's more than likely either a machine or something similar to a machine that has no being in it, or it is a throwaway technology, the little gray beings with the organic biomechanical, machinery. And that's just my take on it. I could be completely wrong.
No, that was good, man. I was getting ready to give you the signal they do at comedy shows where they flash the flashlight, let you know you got 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay? You got 30 seconds. Yep. I think I'm going to get a little bell. I was looking for a bell, I think I can have. But look, hey, I appreciate that. All good points everyone made. Like Todd said, it's subjective for sure, which is why we're asking the question, right? What do people think? And that's going to be the argument moving forward. Again, Danny Sheehan coming out strong against that, not afraid to say that, right? And he's saying that he wants to talk with Jake Barber and his team about, hey, maybe this isn't a good idea. But at the same time, that's part of Jake Barber's big claim to bring disclosure, is he's going to provide the craft, right? And bring it down and provide it. So by taking that away from him, he's left with what? Right? What is he going to be able to prove now? Right? Does that make sense? That was the big, the big reveal would be that. So that's an interesting sort of dilemma that they're going to find themselves in. And I mean, there's just so many aspects to it. Is it a good idea to be shooting down alien advanced spacecraft? When you say it like that, no, there's no way in hell that's a good idea. How could that be a good idea, right? I'd love to see somebody spin that positively. Let's start a war with aliens. Because how would that not be seen as an act of aggression or warfare, like Danny Sheehan is saying? I mean, I agree. But the problem is there's a part of me that I want to see the evidence. I want to see the UFO. I want to get in it and hit some buttons and just see what happens. Right? That's what we want. So the fact that could be on the table to not get it that way. Because why don't they communicate with the craft and say, hey, do you feel like joining us today? Why don't you come over here to us? We've got some charcuterie and albarino. We'd be happy to offer you guys. Feel free to land. Let's have a chat, right? Why don't we start there? Why are we just shooting them down, right? Especially if, like Todd said, historically in the UFO community, there is a theory that some of these craft have been gifted to us, right? So if that is to be believed, then there is no need to be shooting down craft to reverse engineer, because they've already gifted us craft and we already have them, and we could be, right? We already allegedly reverse engineered them, right? Do you see how none of this kind of makes sense when you start asking these questions, right? Or can all of this be true? Can the aliens be gifting us? We shoot them down. We invite them, right? Like all of it. If there's different species, I guess that's the case. But it's just so odd we don't notice any of that in the skies happening at all times. Or maybe I'm wrong, but it's a good question to ask. Great points by everybody.